All right. Matheus Riolfi, co-founder and CEO of Tint, an embedded insurance for SaaS and platforms marketplaces. Welcome to the show, man.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. I think this is a first for me, having a husband and wife on the series.
Yes, and in two different companies, right? So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
whenever we hear of something like, yeah, we have this couple too, but they tend to work in the same startup. We have two separate in similar spaces, but definitely completely separation there, which is good. Keep us sane.
Yeah, well, Jessica, for those that don't know, Jessica is Matthias' wife. She was on the show a few episodes ago. Also runs an embedded platform, but more on the fintech side of things. But gosh, I mean, you two must have some epic debates and at the dinner table, some epic embedded debates.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked and we share notes for sure, and there are many things that translate and it's helpful.
Sure.
But we talk a lot less about work than you would expect from like no two founders working in similar spaces. So we try with our 5-year-old daughter and everything else. We definitely try to
Hmm.
not talk about work as much as we can when we're together.
Yeah, I mean, it must be hard at the same time because two of yous are, startup founders, but you're so right. When you've got the kids and it gets to Friday or Saturday, Sunday, you just try and not talk about it or think about it, don't you? When you've got the kids, that is.
That's right. Yeah, it's not easy, but we definitely make enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like Matthew, I gave you a very, very brief introduction. There'll be people that are listening that know who you are, and of course, people that won't. So, do you want to kindly kind of introduce yourself to the show and from how it started to where you are now?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tint. So Tint, as you mentioned, is an embedded insurance platform. So we help brands like Turo, like Deel, or Montway, U-Ship, amongst others. Make insurance a feature of their offerings, right? So our vision for Tint is that insurance would be a feature and not a product. So insurance is a very important product that somebody can have their life really ruined if something happens and they don't have insurance. So it's a very important product, but nobody wants to buy it. Nobody wants to think about it. Right? It should come with a product from a brand you love, not as a standalone product. And making really everything we do, our embedded insurance platform, our services is just a way to provide an end-to-end way for making this happen. We started 7 years ago, so it's been definitely a journey for us. And Tint came really as the product we wish existed when my co-founder Jerome and I were building products at Turo, which is a peer-to-peer car sharing startup. So as early employees at Turo, we really saw the potential of insurance within a tech company. What Turo does is like it's like Airbnb for cars, so it's really helping people rent out their cars, their own kind of private cars. So we saw the potential of insurance, but we also saw how hard it was for the team without having insurance expertise, without having dedicated product resources to like really launch and optimize insurance to its full potential. So Tint is really the company we wish existed when we were building those products at Turo. And fast forward a few years, we are now like we're very strong in mobility. That's still one vertical, and Turo is a customer from there. We power the off-trip insurance product, but we also work in different verticals, including vacation rental, so everything related to risks of renting out places like on Airbnb and other websites. But we also now investing heavily on the transportation logistics vertical. So again, Tint should be a platform to help vertical SaaS and other software companies across different verticals.
Mm, awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
In those days at Turo, wrestling with insurance hurdles, sparked the idea to start Tint, as you say. But what was that moment like? What was the I guess, the aha moment that pushed you to kind of strike out on your
Yeah.
own, where you thought, we really need to go and build this now?
Um, yeah, so for us was really when we saw it. I remember to this day we were driving. My job at Turo at the time was launching the international expansion. So I moved to Canada. I was launching the business there, and I was spending 80% of my time with insurance. It was really the hardest part to crack whenever we're launching a new market. And I remember this ride. We're going from the airport back to the city. I was there with the two colleagues, and then we were talking about how, we thought that, and I thought that insurance could be bigger than Turo in many ways. So the insurance opportunity within a marketplace, a technology company, could be as big and potentially bigger than its core business. And that's when we were like, wow, that's a little bit personally when we were awake to this idea. They're like, yeah, that is true. There's so much data. There's so much, things that, like, and those customers are like, now there are tens of thousands of customers who are buying insurance somewhere else, to cover their needs. So that could all happen within the platform, and then as a first step and as a next step, the platform is generating so much data that traditional insurance don't have, that the products that this platform can launch should be better than an offline traditional insurer. But why is that is not happening today, right? Turo obviously is very successful on the insurance space, and it's a big part of their business. But it took them 10 year plus to go through that journey. So the idea was like, can we streamline that so companies can get to where Turo was faster, but even Turo can live up to its own potential when it comes to insurance. And that was the inspiration. And I remember there was this time in Canada when the idea really hit.
Hmm. I love it. I love the story, and it might be a dumb question, but like, maybe an obvious one. But again, you saw how you could improve this offering, and how it could make or break the platform's success. But what convinced you that embedded was the play to go?
Yeah, so that's exactly the same trend we see now happening in any of the vertical SaaS platforms, right? So the insight is that all those platforms who are handling workflows for customers, say you are a construction vertical SaaS, now people are going through the entire process of a construction project with all the permits and people management and sometimes payments. This is all happening within a software platform. Um, so that means that the software platform is generating an immense amount of data about this project, about what's happening, how often users are doing, the quality. Like, there's so many things that are being generated. So those software platforms are really all sitting in this kind of really a gold mine of information that, if used correctly, can enable them to sell and create new or even sell amazing insurance products. So they have both the data and the access to users already. And that's very powerful when it comes to insurance and other financial services as well. We're seeing the embedded insurance buzzword. It's part of a even bigger trend, which is embedded fintech, right? So this idea that those platforms, they will offer payments, which is already happening or has already happened, but they will also offer lending. They will offer factoring. They will offer insurance. They can offer fuel cards if you're in the logistics place. It's really this idea that the brand can be really the hub and centralize all those services, and that is strengthening the relationship with their customers. So those products become more valuable, which obviously increases retention, increases conversion, but also they can make money. Those activities, they will generate new profit streams for those SaaS platforms, and then obviously can use that extra cash to invest even more in their core products.
Mm. And it's just to that last point, it can enhance value streams, it can increase revenue streams, for these SaaS platforms or these vendors. So, why do you think now, and very much in, because we spoke about this in our pre-call, the waves of innovation and InsurTech, which we always love to talk about, and where we are
Mhm.
right now, very much seems like that B2B to C embedded model, and then of course you've got whatever's going on in vertical AI within insurance. But I think like we've spoke about embedded for not just 2 years; it's been in insurance for 10 years. But seems like now it's really becoming more sticky. It's starting to create more
Yeah.
sticky revenue. Like what's been what's been the kind of, I guess, the factor in that uptick in embedded use cases, or these SaaS companies wanting to embed these offerings more? Like, what's kind of happened?
Yeah, so embedded, you're right. So the term embedded insurance was coined probably 3 to 4 years ago.
Mm.
Um, and all the experts were predicting this would be a $3 trillion segment of insurance. So obviously the expectations were incredibly high. And I think they are all true and were based on the fundamentals. But I think what we're seeing is that the adoption, obviously, the market is not a $3 trillion market yet. And from our experience, we've seen a very fast acceleration, especially last year. And not only again, only us, but like the competitors we talk with or other companies that are in the space, those conversations we have, like we really see an acceleration. And we believe that there are two main reasons that we're holding back this adoption, but they're no longer in place. One was just pure education, right? From companies to understand that they can now, or vertical SaaS players in different industries to understand that they can be and should be offering insurance to their customers. There's some education cycles. They have priorities. The startup market came through a crisis, right, in late 2022, 2023, where all those companies were really focusing to the core and thinking about survival. So that's also a factor. But there was no education plus this market cycle. But then the second part that I would say it's as important, if not more important, is just that it is just harder to execute in this opportunity than people thought. When you double click and say, okay, let me launch an embedded product. You know, some people think it's like as easy as you call insurance company, you start selling insurance, life is good. It's a lot more complicated than that. And that's when companies like Tint kind of fit because there are a lot of moving pieces that need to come together. Then on their licensing, there is not getting the product. There is no how do you collect the payments. So I think the market started to accelerate without the proper technology and infrastructure, and that was harder to implement, harder to execute than all those brand expected. And that's why that's how obviously we have a biased view, but that's why we approach this as like how can we give those brands an end-to-end solution that is plug and play, that they can start offering the insurance to their customers, proving the value, and start getting paid as quickly as possible. And the reality is like that's hard. You need to
Mm.
solve a lot of problems with technology plus operations to deliver on this value proposition.
Mm. And and what's the journey been like for you guys? You know, you were founded in 2018. Is that correct? Yeah, 2018. Yeah, 2018. Going into year seven. Raised just over 20 million a couple of years ago. Like, what's the trajectory of the business been like? Where are you guys now?
Yeah, so our story has been definitely ups and downs of every startup, right? So we have phases of like extreme exuberance, especially like 2021, going through Y Combinator in the venture market at the state it was at the time, where like some harder years where um, we hit a wall and we have to change our product. So if you summarize, I think we always had the same vision of we want to empower embedded insurance. We want to make sure that insurance becomes a feature, not a product. We started back in the day, like doing a lot of like, okay, pricing models and machine learning and AI. Like, how can we start with the data element and then build from there? And that's what kind of what we've done. The analogy I like to use is that we build a very powerful engine, like a Ferrari engine, back in the day for like insurance pricing and underwriting, and they were trying to sell the engine. And what we're hearing from our users is like, that's a beautiful engine, but one, I want the entire car. I don't know how to build the rest of the car, so just buying the engine is not what I need. And the second part is like, I don't need a Ferrari. I want to start with a compact car, and then from there we will go towards the sophistication of a Ferrari. And those are the two key insights. And then the first, I would say, 2 years or so of our journey. And then we started to build this kind of end-to-end embedded platform. And then now, I mean, I have experimented with the different use cases and different verticals. And now I think 2024 is a year that like we grew over 7 times of our revenue. We really kind of found the unlock. And the unlock in our case was really the end-to-end solution, is like being able to go deliver the full compact car turnkey that anybody can drive and understand with no issues. That was really kind of we saw an acceleration in our business. And this year so far has been very strong as well. So we believe that we'll see a lot more of this growth coming in the next few months and years.
Nice, nice. You said it on the podcast at the start, but when you look up Tint and previous interviews that you've done, you're very clear on that. You've said insurance will become a feature and not a product. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit more? And I think, what does that look like now to a year ago when we think about how Gen AI is in the mix now?
Yeah, again, the idea of the insurance being the feature is that, consumers don't want to think about insurance. Think about a travel, right? Think about the last time you travel. You want
Mm,
to think about the hotel. You want to think about maybe the car or how the transportation is going to go. You want to think about the attractions. You do not want to think about what happens if things go wrong, right? You do not want to think about what if your luggage never makes. What if you get sick the day before and you actually have to cancel your trip? So insurance is, again, it's there because all those things, statistically speaking, can happen to you and will happen. When you think about your entire life and all the different things that you own, that you do, like bad things will happen. But yeah, nobody wants to think about it. So that the idea of the feature is like, okay, but what if whenever you booked an Airbnb already comes with travel insurance? Or what if there's a very simple click that you can do, the same way that airlines they sell the travel insurance? Does this embedded insurance is really like, how can I still get the benefit without having to worry about it too much, right? And we're seeing that across now in the verticals we serve, mobility. We're seeing that in home sharing and which are mostly travel use cases. But we're also seeing in completely separate use cases like HR platforms or transportation and logistics. It's always the same idea. It's like, give me insurance, don't make me think. I want to make sure I'm protected when anything goes wrong. And when it comes
mm,
to Gen AI, I think what's going to do is like, there's so many opportunities, so many platforms and niches out there that we expect and hope that AI is going to get us to a place where it takes us an hour, maybe a second to launch a new insurance product. Both from the technology perspective, everything we need to build, that's what we spend a lot of time and energy in our platform to make sure that now it becomes, now today it takes us about a month to configure a new insurance product from scratch. What happens when it now is as a day? What happens when it's an hour? What it does is like would unlock, like will allow us to experiment, to launch a lot more different insurance products. So maybe if you are in a vertical SaaS platform, they only cater say to hair salons in Florida or in the United States, maybe we can quickly give you a tailor-made product that only work for hair salons. They're going to be half of the price of a
yeah.
standard product that doesn't understand the use cases, that can quickly leverage all the data that the vertical has now. They now can maybe give discounts to companies that have high utilization, high reviews of those customers. So I think what Gen AI is going to do is like all this can happen today. We can't talk with hair salons. We can come up with a product, but this is still too long. Gen AI would gonna get us to a point where we can structure the product, price, and build the technology in maybe days, maybe seconds, but it's a lot faster than today. So we believe that the innovation in the embedded insurance is going to explode whenever that happens.
Because by your theory, then, or not your theory, but by the trends that you're seeing in the way that insurance, how it's seen, is now moving towards being a feature. I mean, I would say when you bring Gen AI into the solution, when you look at like AI is raising the bar for product quality. You know, but over 50-60% of businesses, maybe more, will be using AI.
Hmm.
You know, your smart feature won't really set you apart. So it's, I think from an insurance perspective, it's potentially quite good because products aren't winning on features anymore. They're winning on feel. So everyone uses the same LLMs, APIs, AI co-pilots. The how matters more than the what. So for insurance, that's good. I don't know. For embedded insurance.
It is, and I think in general, what I believe that's going to happen is like, yeah, innovation is going to explode because the barrier to try something, it's going to be much lower. Like barrier both in terms of building the product. Like again, I told you we can do a product in about a month.
Mm,
Traditionally, the cycles in the insurance industry are at least 12 months, 12 to
yeah.
18 months, and $1 million
Wow.
to try a new insurance product. That is what traditionally has been the case, $1 million of cost, right? So obviously, what happens is that the insurance companies they need to believe that it's going to be a very big product on the other side. Otherwise, they won't do it. It's just not worth the risk and the cost. Now imagine when you bring this cost to virtually zero and the time to build this to a day. In theory, you can start trying a lot more things. So that's why, man, that to me, I apply this principle across everything we do. Is like what Gen AI will do is like we will empower humans to try things faster and reduce the cost of innovation. And that means that we should see a lot more exciting products. And that is ultimately what Tint wants to be, right? We want to be the gold
Mm,
standard that now any of those new insurance products that some we may not even know about yet, they will be built on Tint. We will give everybody the
the
platform
model.
that makes it so easy that it unlocks the innovation that has been so hard and some slow historically in the insurance industry.
Yeah. But what do you think you've got right? Because you're so right. The amount of over the years embedded plays, particularly in the last five, along with like MGAs in the insurtech space, it's just embedded in solutions. MGAs just popping up everywhere. Like, what do you think's been key in terms of how you help clients design an insurance experience that I guess feels invisible, but still meaningful because that's why they're embedding it. Like, what do you think's key to what you guys have gotten right in this complex world of embedded insurance?
Yeah, the key for us is the technology, right? So ultimately, we have a technology and services that, and I think insurance, it's or any fintech product, like you have an offline element. You have licensing, you have in our case claims, like when cars break or houses burn, like we need to help with between us and our insurance partners. You have to deal with those like physical, real kind of problems.
Mm,
So I think insurances is always the tech and services, but the technology is the ultimate competitive advantage because, as I mentioned, making that product become a feature requires a lot of work on all parties and requires a seamless customer experience that the brand now can trust and offer to its customers. That is no, it's hard. So I think we see ourselves as like the term insure tech, right? So we are a technology company doing business in insurance, and that I think it's our kind of edge over most of the traditional players, and honestly some of the our competitors as well. Like it will boil down to how can technology streamline all the processes, licenses, and so that becomes a turnkey, easy solution for the brands and an amazing user experience for the customers who are buying the policy on the other side.
yeah. And when being down to the technology on the embedded side, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think that was kind of my next question as you were explaining that was what separates, from good from great in the embedded space. Is it, you've pointed out, it's usually the tech is one of the main things, of course, but then going into a deeper layer, what is it? How frictionless it is, how personalized it is. What's the next leap from here to, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in insurance is all of the above, right? The first step is convenience, right? Like, can you buy those products within the
Mm,
brand's experience in a seamless way? And again, a lot harder than it sounds to make the experience work conveniently. Like, for example, just give you a real example. We, as I mentioned, work with Turo. We offer their product to their their hosts who are managing large fleets of cars within the Turo platform. When you request a quote, so you're a host, you want to buy that insurance policy. When you input your email or your information, we already get all your data from Turo, all your cars, photos, make, model, years, and we in real time can run what is the and run the entire process and give you the quote that say, okay, John, I see you have those 25 cars. Here's the price per car. We already pre-configured knowing what is the best for you. You can change things if you want, but yes, I like it. Confirm your information, put your payment method, done. You have a policy. Like it's as seamless as that. And again, but as you can imagine, being in the technology space, having the data flows, the things that need to happen behind the scenes for this magical experience to be there are hard. And I think again, going back to like having for the brands to having a partner who can do that, who can solve those issues, whose technology is constantly evolving, it's important. So the first step is convenience. But then the second step, as you mentioned, is about personalization. Now knowing that this person, this example, has 25 cars who are
Mm.
mostly use a Turo, we can see the utilization, like most of the time the car is out in rentals. Can we give it a much better price than you would do you have if you the traditional insurer did not know about the usage on Turo or the activity of this person on Turo. So those are examples of like they are all again they all share the same commonality is the convenience of the purchase within the brand setting that you like, and it is a more competitive offer, which in insurance many times is cheaper pricing because we can access more data than a traditional offline insurer to price that. And that's kind of when the magic happens. So you get something that is a lot
Mm.
more convenient and is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
That's when you see the success that we see across different programs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel like Turo's getting a lot of shout outs on this podcast. You do work with other businesses. Sources of correct you ship. Deal, you work with them as well, don't you?
Yeah, we work in
Yeah.
some vertical SaaS marketplaces like Guesty, OwnerS,
Yeah,
Stick.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Yes.
we love vertical SaaS in all the spaces we operate.
Perfect guest for the show. But how do you get how do you spot the underserved verticals that are ripe for embedded insurance? Because you talk a lot about the tech, but actually you're not playing it down. You've just probably not mentioned that you've got that domain expertise. Like you're a licensed broker, I'm sure. You know, you've got your broker
Yeah,
license.
yeah.
So by the way, this is all grok, sources of grok. The model. But yeah, like you've got that domain expertise. Like, does it come from that eye where you just kind of know where to look, or like what's your playbook for weaving into the kind of vertical SaaS ecosystem?
Yeah, no, the playbook, and again, in full transparency, we're building as we speak, right? So
Yeah.
we have successfully launched a few verticals, but we have plans to be in hundreds of verticals at some point. And I think
Mm.
when we get there, I can probably say without any reasonable doubt that we really nailed the playbook. But I would say for us, it's basically we think ourselves as a platform as well. So we build a lot of products and capabilities that are horizontal, so it would apply to any different vertical. And that's a big difference, say, between Tint and other players in space, which typically build everything they have verticalized. But then on the kind of we call the verticals or the different places, we have business owners who are responsible for sales, who have domain expertise, who have some of those insights. So, for example, in the logistic transportation, we hire a person who had 20 plus years of experience as a freight broker, buying insurance and managing insurance for them. So we typically in the verticals we have a domain expert, and we pair that with a team who has the platform knowledge to help them build the product, find an insurer to underwrite, build the technology behind, and launch. We want to get down, and I think it's nice that you use the word playbook. We want to get it down to a playbook that is fully formalized, validated, and that's when I think Tint can become as big as Stripe. Is the day we really figure that out. because then we can go to hundreds of different verticals and use cases.
Hmm. And how do you know when I guess maybe you don't, maybe you just reach out and you just have a conversation, but like when a business should be offering embedded insurance, is there a time scale on that, or is it not really?
In terms of like when should those companies reach out or?
Yeah, I mean, just when would be the right? Is there do you kind of see a timeline of companies' age and maturity when maybe?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So for us, I would say a good timing. I mean, it's never a wrong time, right? So obviously we are
Right.
here, we're available to have conversations. We are typically very transparent as a company, so we'll be the first ones to say, "Hey, it sounds a bit early," or we don't think there's an opportunity there. Like we'll be transparent very early in the process. Typically, anybody can learn something. But with that being said, I think we've seen the best time is probably if you're venture backed at around Series B stage, because this is what like the idea is very simple, right? Like after you figured out or you are post or at product market fit, and now you're now growing your core business and you're starting to add other services or add-ons on top of it. And the reality is like, until the core business is stable, like the add-ons, they may be more distracting than helpful. But obviously the other way around is true. Whenever the core business is stable, then that's gonna keep growing and it's gonna be in a right path, and it's gonna give you enough scale that if you can sell, a policy to say 10% of your customers is already a very meaningful revenue stream and a value added to your product.
One thing you mentioned earlier, which you wanted to come back to, is the hires that you'd kind of lightly touched on that you'd made in the past year or so. I think you doubled down, as we've just spoke about, on the domain experts. Like I think you got someone in mobility and someone in somewhere else. Can't remember the other domain, but some other founders would swear by hiring maybe let's bring some fresh perspective in, or hiring more generalists instead of they may be more smart, they may be more adaptable. Like, why did you feel picking that deep expertise over maybe the hardcore generalist approach?
Yeah, you're absolutely right that there's probably a balance, right? I think you do need both skills. You need a domain expert, you need a general athlete. Again, I'm more a general athlete profile. Before Turo, I went to business school. Before business school, I was a strategy consultant. So I definitely more, and we have a few other folks on the team that have this profile as well. So I definitely see the value, and we will have more generalists than specialists. But but what we learn as well, especially in insurance and some verticals, especially like very big specialized vertical like transportation logistics, it really helps to speak the language and to
Hmm.
have some relationships in the industry. And that's something that the general athletes they probably won't have at the in the early launches. So something that we are roughly trying and pay attention to is like how do we pair both? How do we pair the domain expert with the generalist? And I think that is gonna end up being the squad, if you will, for every new vertical we launch. Like we need kind of the abilities and skills of both sides. We are no again. While I've been working on embedded insurance products for 10 years, so
Hmm.
maybe that makes me a specialist, but I'm mostly an outsider. I came from the technology perspective to insurance, not the other way around, right? I didn't make a long career in traditional insurance. I never worked in a traditional insurer. I partner with many of them, but I never worked on the same side. So we are always approaching this with an outsider perspective to get started. But I mean, we also learned that there is value in the expertise that people develop in, especially again in hard industries like insurance. So we try to balance both.
Yeah. Big question that you probably need to dig into the brain for, but like, what do you think's been the biggest challenges slash lessons learned, maybe from hiring, maybe in the wrong verticals, or maybe not balancing the domain expertise, or maybe the lessons learned from building your product in the early days? Like when you look back over the last kind of 6 years to where you are now, like what do you feel like the real big lessons learned that have really kicked you guys on?
I think you touch on a few of them. I want to say balance, finding the right balance between specialists and generalists,
Hmm.
experience and fresh look, structured and agility. I think that has definitely been finding that balance has been a learning experience for us. I think we had times in the past where we went too far too quickly with structure and growing the team, and then the growth didn't come as we expected. So we found ourselves with a solution with an infrastructure that wasn't the best for the timing. So again, I think there's a fast growth startup trying to balance the different things that are around you are typically challenging, and invariably you go through some processes. You will make mistakes. You have assumptions that you thought were true and they will prove not to be true, and that kind of changes the calculation a little bit. But I believe that because we went through a few of those learnings in the past, that I can see today we're a lot more prepared to to have a better kind of resolution of what is the situation and have a better plan for it. And the results really have been showing that we're definitely getting a lot more things right than wrong at the moment.
Nice. And what's kind of final question from me? But what's on the agenda now? We've just finished coming up for the end of Q1 already, nearly in 2025. How's the rest of the year looking? What you guys excited about?
Yeah, we're excited to continue, again, to invest in our platform and scaling the three verticals that we are mostly focused on. As I mentioned, mobility, the home sharing or vacation rentals, and logistics and transportation. We're starting to see some of those investments starting to pay out. We're making some investments that are gonna pay out later in the year. But we're very excited with how things are going with the growth pattern and with how embedded insurance seems to be accelerating. So, and probably now talking with different vertical SaaS from different spaces who are all starting to think and consider insurance as part of their products.
Nice. Well, we wish you the best of luck. We hope it's a fantastic year ahead. Seems like it's set up for one. But thanks so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed the conversation, Matthew.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation as well.
Yeah, likewise.